Are you thinking of moving to the Phoenix area and wondering what it's like to live here? There are a lot of great things to love about living here in the Phoenix metro area, but there's also some things that aren't so great about living here. And if you're wondering what those are, well, stay tuned. We're about to talk all about them. So here we're talking about our 7 least favorite things about living here in the Phoenix area.
You know, honestly, we get a lot of calls from people that are thinking about moving to the Phoenix area, and we just love it. We love sharing the information about the area with you. So, you know what? Give us a call, send us a message, DM, email, text, however you want to get a hold of us, but give us a call and we're more than happy to share the information. So as Josh mentioned, there's a lot of things we really love about this area, and there's a few things that are not so great.
Now let's get into our 7 least favorite things about living here in the Phoenix metro area. Starting off with number 1 is our summers.
Yeah, I mean, if you are not a heat person, then you will not like living in Phoenix in the summertime. It gets hot, very, very hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we are going to say our least favorite, but also give you guys a couple tips and tricks of how to get through each of those things to help mitigate some of the frustration with it. As Barbara said, summer, the heat. Oh geez, this year wasn't too bad, but usually we'll get a couple days in the high 1 teens, sometimes 120 every now and then. But on average, you'll probably have about 2-3 months of 100+ days as the high every day.
Yeah, well, you know, the good thing though about it, Josh, is like it only lasts for 3, maybe 4 months. And then the weather the rest of the year is beautiful.
Yep, at the start end of those 3-4 months and at the end, it starts to drop down. And even though the high might be right about 100-ish or high 90s, it's the lows that once the sun starts down where it's actually pretty nice and you can go outside and it'll be in the 70s, 80s or so. And at night, for instance, last night, still summer here, and we got down to the mid-low 70s, which was very, very nice. Could finally open the windows. Now, another couple things about our summers is we do have clay ground here, and summers is also one of our monsoon seasons. So when we do get the rain, it doesn't soak up into the soil like a lot of other areas that have dirt or sandy soil. Because of our clay, it tends to just run off, which can cause flash flooding risk and other flooding areas in some parts that aren't super well irrigated or have good storm drain systems to get rid of all of that extra water coming through.
Yeah, excuse me. So it's always good to have those alerts set up on your phone. And they're really good about sending out the alerts. So if there's any chance of rain or heavy rains that might cause flash flooding, they let us know right away. So if you're in an area that might be more prone to flash flooding than other areas, you're going to want to make sure that you're off the roads and that you're someplace safe.
Absolutely. And then same with our next weather phenomena that happens here is our dust storms, which sometimes when storm fronts come through, there might not even be too much rain, just that wind gust will blow up. All that dry dust usually happens right before the monsoon season, the rains come in, where there's a lot of that light, arid, dusty ground that it just blows up. And again, you will get notified on your phone. Make sure to have those on. And just make sure to stay indoors, or if you are caught out there driving, make sure to keep driving on the road. And if you do need to pull off with no visibility, make sure to pull completely off the road and turn your lights off. That is very important, to turn your lights off. Because if you don't, some people that are struggling to see behind you will see your taillights or your brake lights and think they're still on the road, and it could lead to you getting rear-ended.
Yeah, that's the last thing we want to happen is to get caught in one of these dust storms, or some people call them a haboob, and then be impacted by that. So the key is be aware and then be safe.
Absolutely. And a little trick for summer is our summer, I like to say, is kind of like other areas in the North's winter. Where summer for us, we go from our AC'd house to our AC'd cars to AC stores or wherever you happen to go, just AC to AC. There's a lot of other spots in the winter, you go from your heated home to your heated car to heated wherever else. You just hop from the climate control to climate control. As long as you're doing that, really the summers aren't too bad. The only major noticeable thing is not being able to go out unless it's early morning or late at night, and then slight increase in the electricity bill due to your AC working a little bit harder.
Next up on our list is our winter visitors. We do love them because they bring a lot of money into the economy, but we mentioned the lovely weather that we have here in the Phoenix area in the wintertime. And what happens is it brings in lots of visitors. So people that are coming here just for a vacation for a week or two, or there's a lot of people that we call snowbirds, and they come down here for the full season. So when there's that many people coming in, it tends to do a couple things. Number one, that traffic gets crazy busy.
Yes, rush hour still not terrible. A lot of times the winter visitors coming down, since they're usually here for vacation time, they're not necessarily going out during those peak hours. So getting to work and back from work, it's going to be relatively the same summer and winter time with or without the winter visitors. But it's those off times in the middle of the afternoon and weekends especially, it can get very busy on the roads, and you do need to be careful. Just like anywhere else in the country and in the world, when you have a lot of tourists or people coming in for a vacation, they're on their vacation time and might not be paying as much attention as us natives and those that live here as well. So you just got to be careful on the roads, busier, and then sometimes some sporadic car movements like anywhere else. Just be aware and be observant, and you should be just fine.
Yeah, the other thing is restaurants, reservations. So the restaurants tend to get very, very busy. So almost all of them, you're going to need, unless you go really super early, like before 5 o'clock, you're going to need to plan ahead and make a reservation if you want to go to some of the most popular restaurants. So I would say just be aware of that and plan for that. If you're living here, maybe go to the less popular restaurants or just plan ahead and make a reservation. And sometimes you have to do it like several weeks in advance, especially during, the heavy times of winter visitors, or, when we have major events going on, the restaurants can be super, super busy.
And those major times are usually the very end of December, right around Christmas time, till about the second week of February is the super busy part. But we still get winter visitors here all the way through to the end of March or even the end of April as well. And sometimes they come in as early as the start of November. So just something to be aware of. And then speaking of being busier, not only restaurants but also golf courses and other recreation areas will get much, much busier. Golf courses and other outdoor activities in particular, the cost goes way up during the winter time. One, because the weather's amazing. Two, just because of the amount of visitors we have coming in who love to enjoy those recreational activities. And, if there's a lot of demand, usually and supply is fixed, tends to increase the cost. So you can go from playing a course for under $30 in the summer to, for that same course, having to pay nearly $200 for a primetime spots in winter, which it does get pricey pretty quick. And
it hurts your pocketbook.
Yeah, and you might not go out quite as often as you would in the summer. But, it's just one of those things that with our wonderful weather, you just have to take in stride. And just with that, the general business of everywhere, including downtown, the shopping areas, just most activities during wintertime, just make sure to plan ahead.
Yeah, like I said, we love seeing the visitors, but we do have to make sure that we plan ahead for it.
Now, moving on to number 3 is how spread out our city is, which can be a good and a bad thing. Now, the bad part that we're not massive fans of is the sheer size of the city. We are well over 40 miles in diameter circle, so if you are trying to get from one end to the other, it is a long drive, especially if you have to go through downtown or the center areas. Trying to get from one side to the other could easily take you over an hour. Now, that is an issue with most major cities out there. And luckily for us, being more spread out, the traffic along most of those routes isn't quite as bad as some other large cities around, such as LA or San Francisco, Chicago, New York, those areas. So you will cover a lot more distance, but the sheer amount of distance, it takes some time. So just make sure to plan for that. And if you're going from, let's say, North Scottsdale down to Chandler or Santan, it is about 40 to 50 miles or so, and will take you a little bit over an hour, depending on traffic, to get there. So So make sure to plan ahead.
Like Josh said, with any large city like Phoenix is, it just can take you a while. So kind of plan ahead, like he said. Make sure that you understand how long it can take to get from one end of the city to the other, especially during rush hour. I mean, rush hour can add easily double your commute time. So if you're planning to meet some friends, maybe for dinner or something, and it's during rush hour, just, you're going to have to plan for that. Number 4 on our list is the distance to other major metropolitan areas. So we are, Arizona is a big state, and the states around us are also pretty big. And there's a lot of distance between us and the next major metropolitan cities like Las Vegas or Denver or LA. Unlike some of the cities on the East Coast where you can go from, say, Massachusetts to New York in maybe a couple hours, here it's going to take you a good 5-6 hours if you're driving to get to any of those other major metropolitan areas.
Yep. Our closest one to us would be Las Vegas, which is right about 5 hours to get up there of a drive. If you try to get over to LA or San Diego, they're about equal distance, and both will take you 6 to 7 hours depending on traffic, and then also a little bit extra depending on where in those cities you're going, which is just something to be aware of. We do have the Sky Harbor Airport here, which is a nice large airport, one of the busiest in the country, and connects to all the different major cities. But if you are used to living in the Midwest or over on the East Coast area, you aren't going to be able to go from city to city, like from DC to Baltimore to Philly and stuff within an hour or so of each other. So just be aware of that. It's also a nice thing that you are a little bit separated from everybody else, but again, just something to keep in mind. Moving on to our number 5 on the list is our influx of population. Now this one is definitely a double-edged sword, and there are many things to be happy about it, but several that can be a little bit frustrating, which just so many people coming in, and we're really working hard on expanding the city to accommodate how many, but we can't quite expand quick enough for how many are moving in. Thankfully and unfortunately at the same time, our job market growth and just our wonderful winter weather is leading a lot of people to try and come over here. And it's just kind of like what happens during winter with our winter visitors. We're seeing more and more of the city just get busier and busier throughout the entire year, not just during the winter seasons, just from how many people are coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I moved here in 1990, and I think back then they said Maricopa County, which is where Phoenix is located, was one of the fastest growing counties in the country, and it still is. I mean, if you look at all the graphs and charts, Phoenix is right up there, definitely in the top 10 for the fastest growing cities in the country right now. So it brings in job growth, but it also brings in challenges with infrastructure, rising housing prices, because with all the people that are moving here, we got to have some place for them to live, and that has pushed the prices up dramatically in the last several years. So like Josh said, I mean, there's goods and bads about it, but just know that Phoenix is a growing area, and it will continue to grow. I've seen reports recently where they're predicting that the size of the area is going to grow at least another 50% in the next, I think it was like 10, 15 years. So that's a lot of people moving to the area.
Yeah, and if you have been here a while, just seeing the sheer amount of growth and construction everywhere.
Yes.
If you come down here and you're a visitor, it changes every single year you come down. And you go down, oh, I didn't know that was there, or holy cow.
New shopping center, or new condo complex, a new apartment complex. Just lots of growth throughout the valley, especially on the fringes, and so the valley is just expanding.
And then that leads back to our last one, our how spread the city out. With so many people coming in and the city expanding more and more, it's just causing the city to be even more spread out than it was before, which thankfully we do have the area to move out for all the new residents coming in. But it's just making, if you have to go from one side to the other, it is a trek.
A lot farther, yep. All right, number 6 on our list is the housing prices. And just like every part of the country in the last couple of years, our housing prices have skyrocketed. But because of a couple of the other things that we talked about previously, the fact that the area is growing so much, we really do have a housing crisis here. and it's caused the prices to go up even more. So a lot of people are finding that, especially young people, maybe they have to live with their parents a little bit longer, or they have to double up. So it just the cost of housing and the affordability in the Phoenix area has decreased dramatically in the last couple of years.
Yep, there are still some spots on the very outskirts, which again, make sure to contact us so we can help you find those areas that are still affordable. But they are moving further and further out of the city. Although the good thing about that is with the amount of construction going on, those places further out are now having a lot of infrastructure around them, from shopping centers, grocery stores, just kind of everything to make it not too bad to actually live out there and kind of the corners or the edges of the city versus a few years ago in those same spots. If you're out there, you're talking a half-hour trek just to get to the nearest gas station, let alone a grocery store.
Yeah.
But they are improving that dramatically. But
Yeah, a lot of job growth going on out in these areas as well. So the homes are a little bit further from the core. There are a lot of job opportunities in these areas as well.
Yep, but gone are the days of coming down to Phoenix for a nice large metro area and very affordable housing prices. If you're in the city, it's average big city prices across the country now here, not nearly what it was. And then last on our list at number 7 is our wildlife, which is just something to be aware of. Being here for decades now, I can tell you that the golden rule is as long as you don't mess with them, they won't really mess with you. But still be aware of them. We do have scorpions, spiders, from tarantulas to black widows and stuff like that. We have rattlesnakes here, coyotes, mountain lions or pumas, depending on where you are. The same thing. We have wolves. We also do have deer, black bear, elk. Most black bear elk are a bit further north, but if you are in the northern outskirts, sometimes you can get a deer, but you won't really have to worry about that unless you're up by Payson or maybe Flagstaff area. But be aware of those when you do visit from the city, that that wildlife is up there and can be dangerous.
Yeah, when we get people moving here, I always get questions from them. Well, what about snakes? What about scorpions? What about, all these things? And I just tell them, you know what? They are there. Because we do live in the desert and that's where they lived. But if you get rid of their food, then they're not going to come anywhere close to your home. So there's a lot of communities where you're never going to see any of those things. If you're out in the home that you're living in is maybe next to the desert, you might see that. But as long as you have your home treated you do pest control and things like that, you don't leave your garbage out, then you shouldn't have an issue with any of the wildlife that a lot of people are concerned about that is available in this area.
Yep, just as she said, just be aware if you do live next to a large desert open path, you're likely to have some encounters a little bit, but again, a lot of mitigation that you can do. One thing I would say is even if you are in the city, especially if you're by some desert areas, if you leave your shoes outside or in a garage, make sure to turn them upside down and pat them just to make sure there's nothing creepy or crawly in there. Because
that's a good point.
Those shady areas, since we're on the desert, shade is a scarcity that a lot of wildlife really tries to go to. So if you do leave them out there, some stuff can get in. So just make sure to do that. And other than that, as she said, take away their food source and then just do some normal maintenance on the property to prevent pests and other stuff coming through. You won't have any issues with it. But one thing is small dogs outside, just be wary. Sometimes we do have hawks and owls that if they are very small dogs, you might have some issues with it. You can put some statues up on your roof or on other areas to scare them away a little bit, but always keep an eye on. There have been some stories, although pretty rare, of small dogs getting picked up by these our flying friends out there, because they're, just looking for some food.
Well, like we said, there's a lot of things we absolutely love about living in the Phoenix area. There's a few that we really could do without, but I don't think there's anywhere that you can live that you can have everything perfect. At least I haven't found a place yet. So as long as you can kind of deal with the things and, listen to the mitigation suggestions that we've offered you, you're still going to be okay with this. But if some of these things are just like deal breakers for you, well, maybe this isn't the place for you. But if it is, we're here for you, and we would love to chat with you.
Yeah, just make sure to reach out. We'd love to help you find your ideal spot. And then if you do have any questions on further mitigation steps on any of these things, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to share what we know about it and can offer different sources that you can go to find out more information for yourself. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments below what your least favorite thing about living in the Phoenix metro area is, or out of the list we gave, which one would be the worst thing for you about living here. But if you did like the video, make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell icon to get notified of all our future content. We upload every week. See ya!